Good morning and welcome to TLC's Zoom show. And today's topic is continuing your life's journey. I'm Bonnie Hovel. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I'm also a volunteer for TLC services. Is life a journey or a destination? Well, I'm contending that life is a journey, and at every step, you'll be faced with choices that will determine the person you are. What does it mean to see life as a journey? It's really a metaphor for the passage of time and the changes we go through. And you can view it as a journey or even a trip, even though sometimes it may not feel like a vacation. So looking at it this way helps us answer the ultimate question of what is the purpose of life, or what is my purpose in life? And one answer is that we're here so we can continue to evolve as humans, to live, adapt, to learn, and to grow. And most of us have been around a while, and it's a good time for us to, at this stage of our lives, to look at where have we been, who are we, where are we going? And we've gained some perspective and wisdom at this point, and we can we didn't have maybe that much perspective earlier in our lives, but when we have it now, we can take a look at where we are and what we want to do. We can reassess our goals, and we can be intentional about our continuing journey. And if you keep the big picture in mind and take the time to make good decisions instead of the easiest decisions, then you'll be able to look back and be proud of your journey.
Life is a journey of 1,000 miles, and it begins with one step. One small step at a time is really all we need to do to get ourselves going. We sometimes make the mistake of looking too far ahead, and then we get discouraged when we find that our goals are too lofty. It's good to have long-term goals and short-term goals. And so life is a beautiful way of living. We need to honor that we're still here, honor our past, everything we've learned in our life's journey. As Bonnie just said, we've been here a long time. We've made mistakes and we've learned from them. We've decided what things are important and what are not. And if we haven't made those decisions yet, today is the greatest day to start again. Do we all have the same next steps? No, we don't. We all have different journeys, and each one is perfect. Each one is our journey, and we need to take that first step to make our lives whole.
So, do you believe these quotations? You are never too old to set another goal or to dream a new dream. People who have that kind of an excitement about living are the people we really enjoy being around. I remember my dad, even at age 92, kind of having that quality. We can choose joy. Each day we can choose to live it the way that we decide. And anyone who stops learning is old, whether at 20 or 80. Anyone who keeps learning stays young. Haven't you known people who are young, but they don't seem to have that quality of energy or seem to know how to move forward in their lives? And then there are some older folks who keep learning and they have a persona that seems young. I've almost tried taking these words young and old out of my vocabulary because they create stereotypes and they cause us to put limitations on others. So I like to ask myself, how do I embrace my own journey? And the first caution is not to get caught up in comparing yourself to others. Because each of us, as Lou just said, we each have our own strengths, weaknesses, experiences that are shaping us and shaping our journey. And if we can embrace our individuality and celebrate our own accomplishments, then we will be able to choose that joy more often. Setting clear goals for the next part of your life. So if you're convinced, yes, this is a good idea, I want to figure out what to do with the rest of my life, here are some suggestions for how you can identify those goals. And the first one, press pause and zoom out. Well, if you're watching a video, you can press pause, and it's kind of that concept. Take a moment to think about your life, what you want, asking yourself those questions. Where am I going? And if you use computers or tablets, you know that zoom out means zooming out to where everything starts getting smaller, but you're getting a bigger picture. You're seeing a bigger part of the whole landscape. And if you do that, you can get to the point where you can create a vision. You can envision, what do you want the next part of your life to be like? Now, at this point, you can be more general, and then we're going to talk a little later about how to be more specific. But here are some ways you can brainstorm, make a list, just start writing down what are some things you haven't done yet. What do you want in your life that's not there now? And if you could jump ahead 5 or 10 years and look back, what would you tell your younger self? What would you say, gee, I wish I would have done that? Well, now's your opportunity to plan those things into your life.
Many of us are visual learners, so we liked this pyramid so that it can help you understand the bigger picture. And so we start in this pyramid with our higher aspirations. What have we always wanted to do that we either never had the time to do or didn't think we could do? Let's get the coulds and the shoulds out of our vocabulary and look at what are some of our possibilities. Lifelong learning is a concept not just for a school, but for our lives. Have you always wanted to learn another language? Have you been interested in doing volunteer work, but just haven't found the right place to do that with? Have you wanted to travel? Traveling and learning a new language kind of go hand in hand. You can travel virtually. There's all kinds of apps and programs where you can do that if you don't have the ability, whether physically or financially, to do worldwide travel. You can also travel just in your local region. The second part of this triangle is personal relationships and activities. Do you want to deepen friendships? Do you know how to do that? We'll talk about that a little bit later. There are many opportunities, especially here in the villages, to socialize. Sometimes it seems daunting to try to figure out where do we begin. But if that's a goal of yours, let's try to find a way to take that first step. And then finally, the bottom rung, we have health, nutrition, exercise, mental and physical, financial stability. These things can be done in small stages. And we'll talk some more about that in a minute.
So here are a few more examples. Lou just gave you one about the number one on traveling more. That might be one of your goals, one of your higher aspirations that you in general really want to do. You could do things like creating a travel bucket list, and it could be close by, as Lou said, it could be virtual. And then once you have that idea, you can do some planning, because part of the fun is in the planning, and set up your itinerary, and that can give you something to look forward to. And number two, find a place to volunteer your time. Again, this is in the higher part of the pyramid. There are so many opportunities in the villages to volunteer. And you can explore that and figure out, is there something you'd like to do to give back to your community, or something that excites you? And then in the middle of the pyramid, we have things like spending time with family or friends, or reconnecting with someone that you miss. I 15, 20 years ago, I remember looking at my life and feeling that I just wasn't seeing my parents enough, and they were getting older. And I decided, well, I'm just going to travel there more often. I'm going to go twice a year to visit them. And looking back 10 years later, after they were no longer even here, I was so glad that I had done that. Number 4, learn a new skill or hobby. Again, there are so many choices around here. We're so lucky in this place. We have the opportunities. We have many, many choices. Taking a language course, learning to do an art or a craft, and then setting aside time each day to practice that. That's something you can develop over time, little by little. And it makes you feel like you really are accomplishing something and enjoying the moments of your life.
We can also develop a more organized, cleaner home. Now, that's a subset of decreasing our anxiety, decreasing the clutter, because our cluttered environment can often reflect our cluttered mind. I remember when I was working at the mental health center, someone had a sign on their desk that said, "A clean desk is a sign of an empty mind." Well, you can take that way too far. I think a certain amount of clutter, a certain amount of disorganization is healthy, just as a certain amount of anxiety can be motivating for us to do what we need to do. But if you choose to look around you and decide that you want to be better organized, you can start by simple things, such as deciding that if you buy something, like an article of clothing, in order to bring that into your home, you have to commit to getting rid of at least 1 or 2 items of similar clothing. I have a bag in my closet that I keep all the time, where if there's something that I try on that doesn't feel right, it doesn't look good on me, I'll take a second look at it, and if it doesn't look good on me today, it probably won't look good on me tomorrow. So that goes into my donation bag. And so just this year, last week actually, we donated 6 bags of clothing and shoes and household items to the Breast Cancer Society. Just cleaning out the clutter and the feeling of having done something for somebody else and also having more space in my closet was very satisfying. And you can do that in small steps as well for your own home. At the bottom of the pyramid are issues of improved physical health. Physical health, building movement into your daily life. You don't have to go to the gym, although if that's something that is within your ability and something that you enjoy, by all means do that. But you can do increased physical activity simply by parking your car further than the entrance of the store that you're going to, or even the postal station. Park further away so that you have to walk a little bit more. Little steps, again, make a big difference. But building movement into your daily routine. I have someone I was working with who realized that he wasn't really moving a whole lot. And so we looked at his daily routine and discovered that he was waiting a lot. Waiting for the coffee to be made, waiting for the newspaper to be delivered. And so he decided to incorporate some movement in those spaces. So he did some stretches, some body stretches while waiting, some leg lifts while waiting for the coffee. And he found that he felt a little bit better about himself as he did that. So that's building physical movement into your day. Eating healthier meals is something, diet is really important. Well, starting simple, making the decision that maybe I want to have 1 more vegetable 3 times a week rather than another side that's not as healthy. Making sure that we hydrate ourselves well. Do you know how much water or how many liquids you drink in the course of the day? Is this a problem? You may not know until you evaluate that. So the first step might be to evaluate it. And then improving your mental health. Stress, as we mentioned earlier, is part of life. We need to have a certain amount of stress to keep us going. It's unavoidable. But do we live in that moment of stress? Or do we tell ourselves, this is just a short period of time, I will get over that? Will I do something, deep breathing, exercise, can improve your mindset and can improve your sleep. And though it's not listed on here, I think paying attention to our financial goals also is important. Now, we're not at a stage of life where we're necessarily building on our finances, so we may have to be a little bit more cautious about how we expend our finances. And do we have a way of organizing our finances? Do we have a way of letting our heirs know where things are? We at TLC, and thanks to David Hovel, have a tool called Planning for the Inevitable, and that's on our website. These are things that you can start picking at and working on so that you feel like you are making some progress.
So we now want to talk about a worksheet that we've developed for you that we're going to be sending to you, so you don't really have to take notes about all this, but you may have been hearing some goals from us as we've been talking that sound like things you want to do. So those would be the kind of notes to take, is any ideas that are coming to you about goals you have. Then once you have a few in mind, you've done your brainstorming, you've done your visualization, try to take just one or two of them and fill out a sheet for each one. And what you do is go through and say, this is what I want to accomplish. This is the goal I want to accomplish. And if you are specific and include positive goals, for example, I am improving my physical condition and enjoying my fitness routine. You might have a goal like that where you want to find something to do that is enjoyable to you, not drudgery. So you could state your goal in that way. And then in the second part, it's important to think about why, the reasons that you have for doing something, because that is kind of what inspires you. If you don't know what your reasons are, you're very unlikely to follow through with making changes like that. So ask yourself, what are some likely consequences of if you do it or if you don't do it? What motivations are important to you? And then asking yourself, well, if I were going to share my goal with others, how would I tell them to convince them that it was worthwhile to me to do it? When we start sharing with people, it helps us be more accountable, and it also makes us more excited about what we're doing, because they can lend us some help and some they can encourage us and support us in what we're doing. And here's where the nitty-gritty happens in the third part, is the steps that you want to take to achieve the goals. What are some specific, and just think of the first ones to begin with. What's a first step that I could take? Say you're trying to build more movement into your life, and you've decided you could walk a little bit, perhaps with a neighbor. Then you could write down when and where and how you're going to do that. And if you do that, you're much more likely to follow through. If you write it down, it's not just that you need to follow that completely, but once you write it down, you'll find yourself more interested in following through. And you can also write down the ways other people can help you. If you have that in mind, then when someone says to you, well, what might I be able to do to help? You'll already know that because you will have thought it through. And how will you get support from others? You might want to tell a friend, gee, will you go with me on this walk once a week or so? And if that happens, then if that person is willing, then you have another little motivation there to help you follow through. Now, this applies to any type of goal, not just building movement into your life. I'm just using that as an example. And then write down how you will know the plan is working. What changes will you notice? And what benefits can you expect from the change? And when you get this worksheet, it's just one page, and you can just write a sentence for each section or so, or a little list for each section. And then the very last one is some things that could interfere with my plan. So think a little bit about, what could keep me from accomplishing this, because you kind of know what your own tendencies are. And I know what mine are. I might let myself be talked out of, in my mind, doing something that I really, in the end, I'm going to feel so good about doing. And one of my examples is bike riding. I love to bike ride. I get out and I do it. That's when it's really fun. But when I'm sitting reading the paper and thinking about it, that's not when I really want to get up and go do it. But after I do it, I feel good. While I'm doing it, I feel good. So if I can anticipate the things that might keep me from that might undermine what I want to do, then I might be able to overcome them more easily. And then how might you stick with the plan despite the changes or setbacks? So this is this is a whole guideline that you can use just as yourself, trying to figure out what you want to do with your life and making it more intentional. We don't want this to be a chore. It's more of an unfolding process. And this little guideline will help you make it that way. It's also, once you write things down, you're using more senses. You're not just thinking about it, you're writing it. You're more likely to incorporate it into your life, and your brain will remember. And when you accomplish your goals, you're going to just have a whole better thinking process and feeling about yourself.
So what are the 3 keys to success? As we stated, setting clear goals, taking the time to figure out, what are my goals? What are my long-term goals? What is it that I want to use for the next 10, 15, 20 years of my life? We are living longer. We are oftentimes healthier than previous generations. So let's not buy into, well, I'm old, I should expect that I'm not going to be able to do hardly anything. There are adaptations that we can make based on our situations. So set clear goals. The more specific, the better. Be consistent and persistent. Bonnie was saying, once you've made the decision to go bike riding, don't allow yourself to talk yourself out of it. Stay consistent. The more you do something, the easier it becomes to keep doing it. At first, it may feel a little bit strange, so accept that. Understand that any change is a little bit difficult. We fight change in our lives. It's just a natural tendency that we have. But if we're consistent and persistent, we will be able to reach our goals. Making a commitment to yourself is just as important as making a commitment to other people. If I tell someone that I'm going to be there for them and deliver them some chicken soup on Friday, I wouldn't think of not doing it on Friday. Well, if I make a commitment to myself that I'm going to learn a new language, or I'm going to go to Mount Dora, which I've never been. It's not so far. I don't have to go to Spain. I don't have to go to France. I can go to Mount Dora and see what it is. People talk about it. Planning ahead with people. Other people who've been there. What did you see? What did you do? Half the fun is in the planning. And then having a positive mindset. It's really important that we think positively. The little negative angel that sits on your shoulder can be told to go away. I'll talk to you another day. Keeping a positive mindset. I can do this. I made a commitment and I will do this. Remember to stay focused, to stay motivated, and to never give up on your dream. But first you have to have the dream. So that's where we want you to start. There are also a whole bunch of resources that are available online, and we will list them. We'll send you these slides, and there will be a list of resources there as well. And for those of you who get the Village Neighbors, that's right, yes, Village Neighbors magazine, David Hovel wrote a really good article on David, remind me of the title. Beginning Your Life Again, I think, something to that effect. It's in the January Village Neighbors. And again, on our website, we have lots of videos. Yes,
the title of the article is "The Journey Begins Again."
Thank you, David. And it really is worth looking at. We may include it with our handouts as well for those of you who don't get the Village Neighbors. So we've given you something to think about. We hope that it is something that you will take to heart and start your new journey.